Well, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Hank Bounds, president of the University of Nebraska, and today is certainly an exciting day for all of us at the university, whether it's faculty, staff, students, or all Nebraskans. We're going to make a really tremendous announcement here in a few minutes. Today we launched the Nebraska Food for Health Center, a new university-wide multidisciplinary effort that will transform the way we look at human health and the diseases that affect so many of us. We're joined by many distinguished guests today, including representatives of the faculty, university leadership, and the philanthropic community who have partnered to make this new center a reality. You'll hear from some of them in a few minutes. I also want to introduce, several individuals in the audience who are really important to our university. First, let me introduce to you three of our regents who are with us. First, our chairman, Chairman Schroeder, Vice Chairman Whitehouse, and Regent Ferris. Thank you for joining us, gentlemen. I also have with us Chancellor Jeff Gold, the Chancellor of the Medical Center, and you'll understand why he is here in just a moment. The Nebraska Food for Health Center is an example of what is possible when we marry the collective strengths of the University of Nebraska with a vision and support of private partners. It represents the approach we are taking to solve some of the world's most urgent challenges, one in which we draw on the talents and resources of all four campuses, where we act like one university, where we band together to answer the big questions that would be unanswerable by one discipline or one department or one campus alone. The questions the Food for Health Center will tackle are big indeed. How do we develop crops and foods that will help treat conditions like heart disease, diabetes, obesity, cancer, inflammatory bowel disease, and mental disorders? How can we leverage the combined power of agriculture and medicine to prevent and treat diseases that affect quality of life for people in Nebraska and around the world? And how do we go about this work in a way that will engage our students and prepare them for a rapidly changing workforce? This new center would not be possible without our talented faculty or the leadership of our chancellors, research officers, and chief academic officers. It also would not be possible without our partners at Nebraska EPSCoR. Finally, we are grateful to private donors whose support is helping us launch the Food for Health Center. I'm honored to announce that the Rakes Foundation of Seattle has made a $3 million commitment, including a $1 million challenge grant toward the center. The Rakes Foundation was co-founded by Nebraska native Jeff Rakes and his wife Tricia, who are wonderful friends to the university and to our students. They are here today, and you'll hear from Jeff in a few moments. In addition, the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation has made a $2 million gift in support of the Food for Health Center. The gift is made in recognition of Jeff Rakes' past service as Chief Executive Officer of the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. Please join me in expressing our gratitude to Jeff and Tricia and the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation for their tremendous philanthropic investment. Thank you, Jeff. Bill Gates sends his regards to Jeff on today's announcement. He has asked us to share a statement with you today. It reads, and I quote, "Jeff's leadership made a tremendous impact on our work at the Gates Foundation. Melinda and I are pleased to honor his contribution and personal commitment to making a significant impact in his home state." And here to tell you more about the center is our Chancellor at the University of Nebraska Lincoln, Ronnie Green. Ronnie.
Well, thank you very much, President Bounds. It's a real pleasure to be here today and to be at this point of being able to announce this new initiative and broadened initiative that we've been building over the last several years, and this wonderful gift from Jeff and Tricia from the Rakes Foundation and the Gates Foundation. Some of you will know that we began a number of years ago, probably about 7, making investments in an area of research called the gut microbiome, using new technologies in metagenomics and sequencing technology that was coming available out of the human genome effort in order to look at ecosystems like the gut microbiome and that biology system that is very complex, as we know. And that group, which eventually came to be known as the elaborate term, the Gut Function Initiative, Jeff, in fact, has joked with us a lot over the last several years about that name, has established quite an international reputation in that area of science as part of our Department of Food Science and Technology here at UNL. In the last 18 months, we have been envisioning a larger effort around food for health, both elevated by the University of Nebraska system and a system-wide initiative and investments that are being made across the system in that area, as well as how we put a greater pipeline, if you will, around the gut microbiome effort. So this new center not only engages that group here at UNL and an expanded, more faculty in that group that we're adding, it also ties plant phenotyping and inputs of plant systems into product development in food for health here at UNL, along with gnotobiotic mouse work in the mouse model, if you will, in that area that is also here and will be expanded, to primate work with our colleagues at the University of Nebraska, Omaha, and to clinical work with our colleagues at the University of Nebraska Medical Center, and you heard the introduction of our Chancellor, Jeff Gold, here a moment ago. So this is a full spectrum effort, if you will, that we're on the front now of building, and as fate would have it, or perhaps a little planning involved, there also is a national microbiome initiative that has just been launched by the U.S. government earlier this spring, of an investment of $120 million in research into that area of research for human health, principally, that this, of course, fits directly within. So we're extremely excited about it. Jeff and Tricia, thank you so much for your generosity in bringing us to this point. I would like to introduce to you the initial director of this institute, Dr. Andy Benson, who is a faculty professor here in our Department of Food Science and Technology. He, along with Bob Hutkins, in recent years formed that Gut Function Initiative, and I would like him to tell you about the effort that they're building. Andy serves as the Marshall Distinguished Chair in Food Science and Technology here at UNL. Andy, go ahead and tell a little bit, and then Jeff will come up.
Thank you, Chancellor Green. I just have to say quickly, this is a very memorable day for me and my family, but more importantly, this is a memorable day for the University of Nebraska and the entire state. As you've heard, the gracious gifts from Jeff and Tricia Rake's foundation, from the Bill and Melinda Gates foundations, they've challenged us. And Jeff, thank you for that challenge, to do something larger, to do something bigger than ourselves. You've heard from our president and now the UNL chancellor that the UN system and individual campuses have come together. You'll hear pretty soon that our foundation is making a commitment to help fundraising on this part. I have to say, in my 20 years at this institution, I've never seen an institution come together the way the units have here to make this happen. And so this is really a memorable day, I think, for us here in Nebraska. Indeed, there is no place like Nebraska. So what is this Nebraska Food for Health Center going to do? Well, there's this incredible group of faculty that will be introduced to you in just a little bit that has come together, and they've developed this shared vision, and it's driven exclusively by the science. And I think the great thing about the group of faculty that amassed around this is that each and every one of them is a successful rock star in their own regard. They didn't need to do this, but they came together to do it because they believed in the idea. They believed in the concept. And they've united together to develop and grow a science like none other. The vision centers on the microbiome, as you've heard. There's hundreds of trillions of organisms that inhabit our bodies. These organisms are not just along for the ride, they're actively doing things. They're innately involved in the very fabric of our body functions, our immune systems, our metabolism, our digestion. And not surprisingly, when things go awry, the gut microbiome gets into a state of despair. Now, because the food that we eat feeds these organisms, it's also not surprising that diet is one of the biggest factors that influences this gut microbiome, this huge mass of organisms. And therein lies the opportunity to unite agriculture and medicine. You see, we can use food to manipulate this system, but we have to learn how to do this. So pardon me if I move to a football analogy. We are on the eve of a big football game, but the situation is not unlike facing a team that we've never seen before, a team we don't really know much about. There isn't much game film on this microbiome team. We're still learning who the players are, what positions they play, how they act. So we have to make game time adjustments. Our game plan's got to be game time. It's going to be developed in real time as we go. Now, a lot of other institutions are making game film. They're learning who the players are, what they do. We're going to go farther than that. We're going to learn how to actually perturb that system in real time, reaching back into our crop breeding and genetics programs that can create such an amazing array of plant diversity that will make your head spin. We'll capitalize on that diversity to learn just which components of the dietary system will actually perturb individual players of the microbiome. Those are the molecular plays, if you will. And we'll try out many different types of these plays, these molecular plays, these plant molecules, to see how the microbiome responds. Game time decisions, we'll find a few of those plays that really work well. The center will then scale on these candidate molecular plays that we know works, and we'll examine them through the animal model systems you heard our chancellor mention, and eventually into humans. You have to be sure that these molecular plays won't work against all teams. We've got to figure out which teams they work against and which they won't. In fact, across human populations, we know these dietary molecules will only affect subgroups, and we've got to learn what that picture looks like, and we will. And then, of course, we want to use those molecular plays to deal with human disease. We'll use the best plays that we can come up with to try and to defeat the alternate abnormal microbiomes that we find in these human diseases. With our partners at the medical center, we'll hone these new skills at molecular play calling, if you will, to treat disease. And ultimately, we'll use these playbooks to develop food and food ingredients that can be used to improve the quality of life of individuals with disease. Once again, thank you so much to Jeff and Tricia Rake's Foundation, to the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation for helping this to happen, for pushing us, for making us think big, and helping us to dream. Thank you very much for that, and I'd real quickly like to give a round of applause here. And just very quickly, we do have a few of the team members here, and I'd ask them just quickly to stand while I introduce them. They're sitting back here. So from the University of Nebraska, Omaha, we have Dr. Jeff French. From the University of Nebraska Medical Center, Dr. Tanner Hagelstrom. University of Nebraska Lincoln, Dr. Devin Rose. University of Nebraska Lincoln, Dr. Jacques Izard, one of the newest members of our team. You guys sit down so I can get there. Thank you. On the far left here, we have Dr. James Schnabel from the Plant Sciences Group at UNL. In the back row, Dr. Amanda Raymer-Tate from the Food Science Department, Dr. Jennifer Clark from the Department of Statistics and Food Science, and then also Dr. Robert Hutkins. Thank you so much to this team also for this vision.
And we wanted to save the last word for our donors today. It's a real pleasure for me to introduce a huge supporter for us here in Nebraska. Jeff and Tricia, as you know, have been very generous to the university in the past, not only in the Rake School that is now a gym here at the University of Nebraska. Also instrumental, Jeff has been in the Water for Food Institute, serves on the board of directors for that institute of our system since its formation. Please join me in welcoming Jeff Rakes.
Well, thanks, everyone. It's great to see you all here today because we think this is special. And I'm going to do my best job to try and articulate that to you. Before I get started, though, I want to acknowledge a few people on my team. First and foremost, my wife, Tricia, my soulmate, my partner in all our philanthropic work. Thank you for all that you do. I see my niece, Abby, Rakes back here. I'm not sure Helen was going to try and be here, but I want to acknowledge both Helen and Abby. They are important family members, but also important members of the University of Nebraska family. And if there's any bit of sadness I have today, it's that Ron is not here. Because my brother Ron would think this was terrific. And gosh, I wish he could see it. I hope he's seeing it from up above. But I think he'd really appreciate what we're doing. My daughter Michaela is in from Seattle. My nephew Nathan is in from Seattle, so it's great to have a number of family here. Now, I'm going to touch on three themes. And one has to do with gratitude. One has to do with the positioning or my vision or view of the positioning of this university in the 21st century. And the last will be my thoughts in that context of this university in the 21st century as to how the Food for Health Research Center fits in. I notice there's some journalists here. I'm thankful for that. I hope I tell this story well because I think this is a very powerful story, and I hope that I do it well enough that you can use your communications channels to tell this story because it'll make this university even better. First, I want to start with gratitude. My father, Ralph, was a graduate of this university in chemical engineering, 1930. The Depression changed the trajectory of his life. He literally and figuratively saved our farm near Ashland, Nebraska. But the reason he was able to save our farm had a lot to do with leveraging the research and educational outreach of this university. He took advantage of what this university produces to not only survive, but to flourish for 40-some years, growing our farm, and then taken over by my brother, Ron, who continued to take advantage of what's here at the university to have our farm flourish. So that's part of the gratitude, is that we really believe in this university and what it does for people. But it's not just the Rakes family. I spent a lot of time working on African agriculture, and part of what I do is study what happened in the last 120 years here in the Midwest. Because the agricultural transformation that took place here in the Midwest transformed the lives of millions of people. My father used to say that it was Midwest agriculture, Nebraska agriculture, that could be central to feeding the world. And while I don't fully agree with that, since I want Africa to be able to also feed the world, I think it's a very, very important point. And I think that I am a product of that agricultural transformation. The opportunities that I and my family members have are due to what this university could do for my parents. It literally changed the shape of the trajectory of the opportunities that our family members have. And I just think that's really important. And so this gift in part is our gratitude to the university. And that you saw earlier, Bill and Melinda's gift, I'm very appreciative of, in some respects gratitude for what I was able to do at the Gates Foundation. But part of what I'm doing today is also returning that gratitude to them, back to them, because this is a platform that will help the Gates Foundation and others who really care about the issues of global health. So that's my first theme, gratitude. I want to move to my second theme, which really has to do with the context for this center. And it's the positioning of the University of Nebraska in the 21st century. I have an observation about the 20th century. I think this university developed its leadership through the creation of agricultural production technologies that could lead to that transformation. Things like better inputs in agriculture, better seeds, advances in animal science, engineering like irrigation solutions, agricultural economics and agribusiness so that these farms were better managed. Those were the things that really led this university and this state in the 20th century, ag production technologies. But times have changed. If we're going to continue to be leaders in the 21st century, we're going to have to move to a new level. And in my view, that level, and this is represented here today, is the nexus of agriculture, food science, health outcomes. And it has to be underpinned by great intellectual property. That is a key medium in the 21st century. We have Sally McKenzie here today, Mike Fromm. They are representing a great example. The advances in epigenetics technology as a tool, a platform for improved breeding of crops. That is fantastic intellectual property that'll be an example of what shapes the opportunity for this university to lead in the 21st century. On second observation about the positioning of this university, for good reason through the centuries, academia has developed silos. Deep expertise, knowledge development within specific domains. And that was important. I have an appreciation for that deep expertise. But today's global challenges are complex, and they require interdisciplinary approaches. Now, in fact, Ronnie and Hank mentioned it. My connection to the university, if you think about what I'm drawn to, it's interdisciplinary work. It's intellectual property. The Rake School was specifically designed to be interdisciplinary, to bring together computer science and business management and leadership, because it was our experience at Microsoft, Bill Gates and I, that we needed to have more talent that had that interdisciplinary education. The design studio of the Rake School, where it takes it's the translational vehicle of that talent to real-world problems. So we need interdisciplinary. We need that translation to real-world problems. The Water for Food Institute, establishing this university's ability to have a global impact on agriculture. And interdisciplinary, more crop per drop. Better engineering of solutions managing water, better policy for resource management. I see some of my colleagues from the Water for Food Institute here today. So it's in that context that Trish and I decided to make this gift, to encourage Bill and Melinda to join us in this gift, and frankly, to challenge the university to do more than just the gut function initiative, a name I didn't necessarily love. What Andy and this team he introduced today is doing is they are creating an interdisciplinary education and research value chain. That's my description of what's happening. It is a platform. It is a value chain. Ag production leads to early stage food processing, taking advantage of the excellence that we have in food science as well as ag production, which leads to microbiome studies, which leads to health outcomes, which leads to understanding then how to leverage the processing to do food production. That is what I mean by an integrated education, interdisciplinary education and research value chain. That is a platform. And by the way, we talk about it today in terms of human health, but Tricia and I are also cattle feeders on the side. This is important for livestock as well, because ag production leads to feed production, which leads to microbiome studies that improve livestock health and performance. So the centerpiece of this is the microbiome work, and I'm greatly appreciative of Andy and his leadership, because that's a key part of why we were able to get here today. But the thing that really gets me excited is that we're working at the nexus, it's interdisciplinary, it's building intellectual property that can really help solve some of the most important challenges that we face in the world. So I close by saying thanks to all of you here, the leaders here at the university, the leaders within that interdisciplinary value chain. I hope you don't mind me coining that phrase for you. And just really want to extend my thanks and gratitude. And frankly, I had a certain curiosity when Andy was getting up to speak. I don't know if he gets nervous. Really, I did want to ask him in that situation, how does his gut function? So, great. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon. I'm Brian Hastings, CEO of the University of Nebraska Foundation. I do want to make one more introduction. I think we missed one faculty member involved with the new center, David Heighton from Agronomy, who's here. David, thank you. I woke up this morning in the Sandhills, and I had the benefit and the privilege of a 4-hour beautiful drive back across the state here to Lincoln today, and a chance to just reflect on the wonderful work that we have a chance to do at the foundation and certainly at the University of Nebraska that ultimately changes lives, and in the case of the medical center, saves lives. And it's a responsibility and a privilege that we have each and every day when we wake up that we take seriously and that we appreciate and that we're grateful for. We are very pleased to be a philanthropic partner in this effort, as is mentioned in the press release that will be shared here today, and as you heard in the comments, this lead gift from the Rakes Foundation and from the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation gets us started down the journey of what will be initially a $20.5 million fundraising effort, and we at the University Foundation are pleased to get started on that right away. I want to also pause and ask everybody for another round of applause to thank Jeff and Tricia, who are with us today, for the generosity of the Rakes Foundation and the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. And to Jeff and Tricia, I especially want to say thank you, not just for your philanthropic generosity, but for the vision and the passion that you bring to things. You've heard, our audience here has heard about how you brought that vision here in the case of the Nebraska Food for Health Center. You brought that vision for the Rake School, not just the philanthropy to endow it. Tricia, you helped us formulate women investing in Nebraska and think and conceive what that could look like. And in so many different ways, Jeff, is part of your role with our campaign for Nebraska Executive Committee, thinking about the pillars of that campaign. And I think that thought leadership and that vision to really challenge the university to be a leader in the 21st century has been wonderful. It's been very much appreciated. We look forward to starting to tell the story about the University of Nebraska, about the Nebraska Food for Health Center, and all that can happen from that and all the good that will happen. So thank you very much, Jeff. Thank you, Tricia.
Please join me again in thanking Jeff and Tricia and the Rakes Foundation and the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation for this wonderful start now on our Nebraska Food for Health Center. Thank you for being here today.